John Eustace has left Blackburn Rovers and joined relegation-threatened Derby County. Now, on the face of this, people will be saying, what's he doing? Leaving a team fifth in the league and going to a team that's embroiled in a relegation battle. Well, on the face of it, yeah, it looks pretty weird. But the reality is, and if you cast your mind back to pretty much first 10 games of the season, I did a little video called The Chaos Clubs Are Doing All Right, or something like that. I think Editor Kate put an interesting title on it. Essentially, this video says Blackburn, West Brom and Watford, while rather chaotic, they are all doing very well. But the idea that I came up with in that video was the fact that West Brom will be fine because the chaos kind of was from the outgoing owner, the previous owner, whereas the new owner is doing a great job and he is sticking to the EFL mandated business plan. And happy days. West Brom are, well, they're not going great guns, but they're in a playoff battle that actually they look worthy of that playoff battle. Whereas I said Watford and Blackburn would revert to the mean. Now, Blackburn have sort of, I don't know how, they are fifth in the table. It's kind of like that bit from Little Britain where Andy Pipkin is in the tree. He's climbed up there and Lou looks over there. Andy, how'd you get up there? He's like, I fell. Blackburn have been, they managed to grind out results earlier on in the season, and John Eustace had them performing as some of their parts very, very well. They were performing incredibly well. Let's not forget, this is a Blackburn Rovers team that finished 19th last season. They literally survived final day of the season. 19th really put a shine on how bad they were in the 23-24 season. Wasn't good. And a certain Sammy Smodics papered over the cracks. And every single season, Blackburn always have that one striker that just pulls in ridiculous numbers. Smodics, Brereton Diaz, Adam Armstrong. And they always just sort of get them out the proverbial. This season, no one's really pulling in those types of numbers, but Eustace has more of a workman-like, we're all in this together mentality. That has worked really well. Taking a team that was on the verge of relegation last season and taking them into the playoffs. And Eustace has priors in this. He did it with Birmingham. And yeah, I know, Birmingham, they're in League One. So Eustace had them in the playoff positions, in the championship. This is Birmingham, a team who are perennial mid-table championship fodder, who are now in League One and spending big. And what Eustace did was fantastic with them. But the new owners, they wanted more of a big name. So who they bring in? They brought in Wayne Rooney, who automatically steered that club straight into an iceberg and got sacked within 15 games because he undid all the good work that John Eustace had instilled. Right, now back onto Blackburn. So Chaos Club. And chaos doesn't really do it justice. When I talk about the chaos clubs, I talked about Watford's. Yes, all the off-the-pitch stuff with Gino Pozzo that's been going on, where he's sort of been manoeuvring to get Tom Cleverley out, but Tom Cleverley's stayed, and then they went for a window and pretty much did nothing in that transfer window. They brought like one or two players, but for a team that were pressing and chasing the playoff side, Watford, it was not good enough. The same can be said about Blackburn Rovers. And the Venkies took over in the Premier League. They are one of the poster children of chaotic clubs. The Venkies took them from the Premier League to League One, and they seem to have got something right here. They brought in a manager, John Eustace, who's done a remarkable job steering Blackburn away from relegation when he came in last season and having them battling in the playoffs. So you want to return to the Premier League, right? So what do? You back your manager in the January transfer window. Wrong, you don't.
It wasn't me.
It wasn't me.
Their January transfer window, they spent a bit of money on a Serie B player. They brought in a free signing in Yuri Ribeiro, who isn't really, he's not at this level, but it's a short-term deal anyway. And then they brought in a few loans, and then have the audacity to come out and say, yeah, we backed the manager in the window. And this all came out in a rather passive-aggressive statement from Blackburn Rovers that came out last week. And essentially, I've been waiting to record this video because I knew it was going to be absolute passive-aggressive glory from Blackburn Rovers when John Eustace eventually left. And they said in this statement, I won't read it out, but it was essentially, we have given John Eustace permission to go talk to another championship club. Wouldn't even name them. I feel for the Blackburn Rovers fans because they've had this, and it's just been one thing after another. Although the Venkies can have some credit because Blackburn as a club, they hemorrhage a lot of money. And the Venkies have always put their hands in their pockets, signed the checks, and sort of underwritten the losses. However, this has all changed now because there is currently a court case in India that's kept getting pushed back that is stopping the Venkies from putting their money into Blackburn Rovers. This can is being kicked way, way, way down the road with no idea when it's going to get picked up and put in the bin. But Blackburn, fortunately, have made quite a few shrewd sells. They sold Adam Wharton for close on 20 million, Sammy Smodix for nearly 20 million. So that's 40 million brought in the last 2 summers. Well, Wharton, I think, was a January signing. But last 2 seasons, 40 million in. None of that money has been reinvested into the club. And that is where the problem lies. It is absolute chaos. And that doesn't even bring into consideration all the issues they've had on deadline days. The last 2 deadline days, they've had absolute clusters whereby they didn't send documentation out so they can sign a player that had flown over from Australia. I can't remember the kid's name. And then last season, where instead of pressing send on a form they were filling out, they pressed save, which is kind of a brain dead move. But so that's chaos for you. That is chaos. But John Eustace has now moved. I'm going to read the Blackburn statement because it's very amusing for John Eustace going out. Blackburn Rovers can confirm that John Eustace has left his role as head coach to take up a position with another championship club. Ooh, I wonder who that is. While we are disappointed by his decision to leave at this crucial stage of the season, we fully understand the opportunity to move closer to his family and return to a former club played a significant role in his choice. The club had hoped that John would see out the season and continue the fantastic work he has done, particularly after strengthening the squad in January. Corley Woodrow's strength. And guiding us to a strong league position. However, with 14 games remaining and a real chance to push for a playoff place, the focus remains on achieving our ambitions. Football is always evolving, and while we part ways with John Eustace, this also presents an exciting opportunity for a new head coach to build on our current positive position. We remain in a good place in the league, and the togetherness of the players, staff and supporters can all play a huge role in making it successful at the end of the season. We'd like to thank John Eustace along with his assistants Matt Gardner and Keith Downing for their dedication and hard work over the past year. We wish them all the best in their future endeavours. David Lowe will continue to take temporary charge of First Team Affairs, supported by Damian Johnson, Ben Benson, Mike Sharon, Paul Butler, until a permanent successor is appointed. Yeah, they don't really seem very happy about losing John Eustace, but at the same time, they should have offered him a longer deal when he asked for it. And he has asked for it because they initially brought him in on a 2.5 year deal. He did enough this season to get a longer contract. And I think with John Eustace, considering the good work he did in turning around a team that were languishing near the bottom of the table, he was deserving of a longer contract on better terms. that is fair. So Derby, I'll just read a bit of this. Derby County are delighted to announce the appointment of John Eustace as head coach. John returns to Pride Park Stadium after 2 spells as a player on loan in 2009 and the final 2 years of his playing career from 2013-15. So this is interesting from David Klaus, the owner. David Klaus said, "I'm excited to welcome John back to Derby County. Fans will remember him for his craft, commitment and intelligence. He was a real leader. I followed his managerial career with interest and it's clear he has the qualities we need to maintain our progress." And this is the important bit. He helped both QPR and Birmingham City avoid relegation before taking Birmingham to a 6th place finish prior to his departure. He has repeated that achievement at Blackburn Rovers, leaving behind a team in the playoff places. And I recommend reading the rest of the statement because David Klaus says some really nice things about John Eustace. And he's obviously a very good football man. And no one can begrudge someone wanting to move closer to their family. To be honest, it makes the job a lot easier when you can go in to the training ground on weird days. He's going to need a lot of weekend work, especially early Sundays at Derby, because they have a chance of getting out of it. They've been on a terrible run of form, and I think he is exactly the man that will turn Derby County around, much to every single Luton Town fan's chagrin. But I guess we'll see what happens with that. I think it's a tremendous appointment from Derby, really bold. It really helps that they brought in a man with an affinity for the football club as well. I don't know who Blackburn Rovers are going to bring in, but to be honest, with the chasing pack, the likes of Coventry, Borough, everyone closing in on those playoff places, I think Blackburn Rovers are going to revert to the mean, finish mid-table. Also, they have a long injury list. It's not looking good for Blackburn Rovers, but I think it is looking up for Derby County. Interested to see what type of new manager bounce they get. The window is closed, which might hamstring them, but that's what John Eustace does. He takes what he has, smushes it together, and they will be a good team in terms of the sum of their parts. The likes of Curtis Nelson are going to be a big miss, but Derby County were relatively aggressive during the window, bringing in centre-backs. So let me know what you think about John Eustace joining Derby County from Blackburn Rovers. Is it a crazy move? Do you understand it? I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below. And remember, while you're here, subscribe to the channel. Lots of championship content. And whoever you support, well, it's probably Derby fans, isn't it? Make sure you have a ram-tastic day.